Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha, Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Zechariah, the 10th chapter, just continuing from where we left off in the 9th chapter. And in Zechariah, the 10th chapter, it's mostly about the Lord speaking to Israel via the prophet Zechariah, and exhorting them about the goodwill that he has towards them concerning the end goal, or the end state of the nation of Israel, in terms of both Judah and Ephraim, right, representing the southern and the northern kingdom being blessed, okay, and being at peace and being delivered by the Lord. Okay, hence, the Lord is exhorting Israel, by way of Zechariah. So a lot of these blessings in here that the Lord speaks of, and even some of the judgments to come are prophetic. All right. But anyway, let's get into it. So this is the book of Zechariah, chapter 10, verse 1. Ask ye of the Lord Yahweh in the time of the latter rain. So the Lord Yahweh shall make bright clouds, and give them showers of rain to every one grass in the field. Now, when you deal with the latter rain, the former rain, and all of that, you have to keep in mind, right, that, let me actually pull this up in the book of Deuteronomy. Let's see, not as land. There you go. Now, when the Lord delivered us, right, and by the hand of Moses and Aaron, right, and brought us into the wilderness, when you read the book of Deuteronomy, a good portion of that is Moses exhorting, informing, warning the children of Israel as they're getting ready to cross over to go, to the other side, into the promised land, because Moses was told of the Lord that he wouldn't be able to make it there. And so he was basically giving them this exhortation. Now in here, he tells them that when you go into the land of Canaan, right, it's not like Egypt, right? In Egypt, you had one of the four heads, okay, of the river, right, that was parted into four heads. In the book of Genesis, I believe it was the Gihon, if I'm not mistaken. But pretty much you had the Nile River, right? So with Egypt, they had advanced irrigation systems, systems that would take advantage of and capitalize on the water, right? The water, the overflow, the rain. So their crops were good. They had systems of making sure everything was good there. But in the land of Canaan, it wasn't like that, right? And because of the way the terrain was set up, there was a heavy dependence on that rain. And this is why the Lord warned us as well to say, look, when you misbehave, that's why famine was one of the most effective and prevalent forms of judgments the Lord would bring upon us, because it was very easy to bring a famine in the land because of how it was. Okay, and the dependence upon that rain, the former and the latter. Now, let's go in here real quick, read a little bit here, not in too much, just a little bit. Let's see. So this is Deuteronomy chapter 11, verse 9. And that ye may prolong your days in the land. Let's see. Let me actually go up here. Verse 7. But your eyes have seen all the great acts of the Lord Yahweh, which he did. Therefore shall ye keep all the commandments which I command you this day, that ye may be strong, and go in and possess the land, whither ye go to possess it, which is the land of Canaan, and that ye may prolong your days in the land, which the Lord Yahweh sware unto your fathers, to give unto them and to their seed, a land that floweth with milk and honey. And what that means is it's fruitful. Okay. For the land, whither thou goest in to possess it, is not as the land of Egypt, from whence ye came out, where thou sowest thy seed and waterest it with thy foot, as a garden of herbs. See, now let's actually look this up in some other translations. In NLT, right, it says here, "For the land you are about to enter and take over is not like the land of Egypt from which you came, where you planted your seed and made irrigation ditches with your foot, as in a vegetable garden." See, so in Egypt, it was much easier to get those crops, the irrigation system and all of that, all good. Okay, so you could create paths in the earth, in the soil, that would direct the water from a large body of water to a certain area, and then it could go through and water and feed the garden or the crops or whatnot. But what Moses is saying is here, this is not the case in where you're going, right? "But the land whither ye go to possess it is a land of hills and valleys, and drinketh water of the rain of heaven," meaning this land is dependent upon rain for your crops. Okay, "A land which the Lord the Lord Yahweh thy God careth for. The eyes of the Lord Yahweh thy power are always upon it, from the beginning of the year even unto the end of the year. And it shall come to pass, if ye shall hearken diligently," meaning you listen very carefully, "unto my commandments, which I command you this day, to love the Lord Yahweh your God, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, that I will give you the rain of your land in his due season, the first rain and the latter rain, that thou mayest gather in thy corn and thy wine and thine oil." So the rain was like it wasn't just one day. It was a period, a season in which it would rain, and that rain would be enough to suffice for the crops to grow, for us to have harvests, I think it was twice or so a year, and be able to have enough crops round the clock and bring in the surplus so it could last you going on through the year, or maybe until the next raining season or the latter rain, right? But the Lord is the Lord is saying here, or Moses is saying here, if you disobey the Lord and he stops that rain, you're through. Which is why when Elijah stopped it from raining, right? He prayed to the Lord and stopped it from raining, caused a drought. The people were in the famine. It was sore. It was sore upon them because now they couldn't get any water for their crops. They couldn't get any food. And things were getting real bad. So coming back to Zechariah, that's just a bit of context about the rain, right? And actually, let's go into the dictionary section, and let's take a look at the at the Easton's Bible Dictionary and see if they have something on the latter rain. Let's see. Okay, so they don't. Or maybe it's under rain. Yeah, let's take a look at rain. Yeah, it says here, rain, there are 3 Hebrew words used to denote the rains of different seasons. Of course, they're spelling it incorrectly, but you get the point. Yoreh and Moreh, or Moreh. And these are the precepts for it, denoting the former or early rain. Melkosh, the latter rain. Geshem, the winter rain, or quote-unquote the rains. The heavy winter rain is mentioned in, these are the precepts. The early or former rain or rains commence in autumn, in the latter part of October or beginning of November, and continue to fall heavily for 2 months. Then the heavy quote-unquote winter rains fall from the middle of December to March. There is no prolonged fair weather in Palestine between October and March. The latter or spring rains fall in March and April and serve to swell the grain, then coming to maturity. After this, there's ordinarily no rain, the sky being bright and cloudless until October or November. Okay, so just a bit of context over there. Now, what the Lord is actually saying here, right, dealing with the rain, of course, you have the literal sense of, the rain coming upon us, which is a form of a blessing, right? The Lord is pleased with us. But spiritually here, this rain, or this latter rain the Lord is referring to, is also likened onto the truth, okay, or the doctrine that we have with us today. And that's likened onto that rain, okay, as where the grass is likened onto us, okay, being in need of that rain, just like being in need of this truth or this doctrine to give us that life. Okay, now let me see. I believe, yeah, here we go. This is the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 24, verse 25, and it reads, "He filleth all things with his wisdom, as Pison and as Tigris in the time of the new fruits. He maketh the understanding to abound like Euphrates, and as Jordan in the time of the harvest." So here, understanding and wisdom are being likened onto water, right? And specifically the kind of water that is used to feed the earth, okay, or the plants or the trees or the crops that they would need to grow, right? It says here, "He maketh the doctrine of knowledge appear as the light, as Gion in the time of vintage," which is another body of water, okay? It says, "The first man knew her not perfectly, no more shall the last find her out. For her thoughts are more than the sea, and her counsels profounder than the great deep. I also came out as a brook from a river, and as a conduit into a garden. I said," and this is speaking in a sense of wisdom, from the perspective of wisdom, right? "I said, I will water my best garden." I will water my best garden. There you go, right? "And will water abundantly my garden bed. And lo, my brook became a river, and my river became a sea. I will yet make doctrine to shine as the morning, and will send forth her light afar off. I will yet pour out doctrine as prophecy, and leave it to all ages forever." So you pretty much get the gist here, right? Where wisdom, knowledge, understanding is likened onto that water, okay, that is being poured upon the grass or the garden or the crops so they can grow, okay, which is spiritually, right, what's happening here in Zechariah 10. Yes, of course, physically the Lord is going to bless us, but in terms of prophecy and spiritually, the latter rain the Lord is going to pour upon us, right, by making those bright clouds. And by bright clouds is really talking about, I think it goes into like lightning or so, which, you have lightning and thunder, what's really going to follow rain, right? "And give them showers of rain to every one grass in the field," which is talking about us, primarily the elect, okay? So verse 2, it says, "For the idols have spoken vanity, and the diviners have seen a lie, and have told false dreams. They comfort in vain, therefore they went their way as a flock. They were troubled because there was no shepherd." So the idols have spoken vanity. Now, usually when you deal with these idols, they typically would have priests or even their own prophets, right? You had the prophets of Baal and so on and so forth. And these are people who would typically, quote unquote, interpret or be mediums for their spirits or their idols to speak through, okay? So what the Lord is saying here is, those idols have spoken vanity. Today, in modern terms, we would call it bullshit, meaning it's of no value, okay? It's not to say that these idols aren't real, in the sense that, maybe you go and ask, this false idol, or not even a false idol, but this false god, something, and they give you an answer and it's actually correct. Yeah, because it's demons, spirits on the left-hand side that are used to deceive people. Yes, they're real. Of course, they can do those things. They can fortune tell, right? They can show you signs that prove that they're real. But it does not mean that they are to be worshipped. Only that is reserved for the Most High. So a lot of people, they get misled because they feel as though because they found something that is spiritual and it's real, then it's worth worshiping. That's not how it goes. Yes, they are left-hand spirits. They are right-hand spirits. They are demons. They are idols. They are false gods. But they are not the Most High. The Most High is the one who is to be worshipped, all right, through his Son. Anyway, for the idols have spoken vanity, and the diviners have seen a lie. So those that tell you, right, that this is what's going to happen, and this is what they've seen, and yada yada, it's a lie, right? Because ultimately, what's going to happen is what the Most High has determined to happen, and what the Most High has determined to happen is what He has told His prophets to go and warn the people about. So that's what's going to take place. And have told false dreams. Now, the modern day, in the ancient world, yeah, you had these priests and so on and so forth, and you still have them today in certain locations, but now the bulk have been modernized. And so a lot of these modern day diviners and, you know, priests of these idols, and even idols in general, are likened onto these modern day religions and philosophies, and so-called pastors, scholars, spiritual leaders. A lot of these people are leading people astray, telling false dreams, seeing lies. As it says, they comfort in vain. When they tell you that you're going to be successful because what, you dropped X amount of, $1,000 in their bank account, or you did some vain ritual they told you to do. Guess what? They're comforting you in vain, because what's ultimately going to happen is what the Lord has said to happen. So people are being misled, and primarily Israelites. Therefore, they went their way as a flock. They is talking about the nation of Israel, right? They went their way as a flock. They were troubled because there was no shepherd, meaning that we were scattered through deception, right? And that's why you have majority of, when you go to the majority of even just different religions out there, you are going to have a good chance of finding an Israelite that's practicing one of them, whether it's Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, Mormonism, if that's even a term, atheism, whatever it is that people say, Satanism, right? Whatever it is out there, you're going to find Israelites in there, because we are likened as a scattered flock, right? Troubled. There's no shepherd. There's no one to guide us and bring us back, because that's what the shepherd's job was to do. Yeah, he was to feed the sheep, but also to make sure that they were all taken care of and gathered as one, right? But these false leaders are misleading our people, all right, and scattering them. Verse 3, it says, mine anger was kindled against the shepherds, and I punished the goats. So why would the Lord do that? Because these so-called shepherds were misleading the people, right? They weren't leading them the right way. They were leading them astray for their own personal gain. For the Lord Yahweh of hosts hath visited his flock, the house of Judah, and hath made them as his goodly horse in the battle. And how did the Lord visit us? Ultimately with this truth, which started with, him sending Yahushua to give us the understanding, but that started with Judah. Okay. And so that's why it talks about him visiting the house of Judah and making them as his goodly horse in the battle, because and as a matter of fact, let's go real quick to the book of Zechariah, chapter 12, verse 7. And it reads, the Lord Yahweh also shall save the tents of Judah first. So that's really where the truth started with, right? That's where it started from, Judah, because Judah is the head tribe. That the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. So there is a purpose as to why the Lord started with Judah and has them in that position. Okay, but of course, from there it spread, to the rest of the tribes. It says here, and hath made them as his goodly horse in the battle. So they were at the forefront. Verse 4, out of him, right, out of Judah came forth the corner, out of him the nail, out of him the battle bow, out of him every oppressor together. Now, the corner, the nail, the battle bow, these are all representing Yahushua. Okay, the corner being the cornerstone, right, which, the foundation or the building is built upon, all right, holding things together. Also the nail, right? If you have maybe like two pieces of wood, what do you use to bind them together? A nail. Okay. But also, like it says, the battle bow, right? Which is likened onto that weapons, right? And ultimately, what is the Lord going to use the battle bow to do? He's going to use it to destroy, to conquer, to take down this system, and to deliver us. Okay. And then it mentions out of him every oppressor together. Now, when you actually look into the word oppressor here, okay, it goes more in a reasonable context into rulers. Okay, so let's go into the word here. Nagash. It says to press, drive, oppress, extract, to extract, driver, taskmaster, ruler, right? Lord. So, the most sensible definition here would be ruler. Okay, because you are going to have, well, I think, I believe it's Genesis 49th chapter. It talks about the scepter coming out of Judah. Okay, so out of him, every oppressor or every ruler together. But as I mentioned, yeah, it's going to start with Judah, but it's not going to be only Judah. Verse 5, it says, and they shall be as mighty men. And who is that they? This is talking about the nation of Israel, but primarily starting with the elect, right? And they shall be as mighty men, which tread down their enemies in the mire of the streets in the battle. And they shall fight, because the Lord Yahweh is with them, and the riders and horses shall be confounded. And this is going to happen when the Lord raises up the nation of Israel, blesses us with power, actual power, and uses us along with, first and foremost, Yahweh, right, to conquer, okay, and to break down the power structures, the opposing, the adversaries, all of them, and subject them onto Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh. And a precept for this is the book of Jeremiah chapter 51, just getting straight to the point. Now, Jeremiah 51 collectively is a prophecy against Babylon, which today is known as America. And this prophecy goes into the destruction of Babylon. And within here, we read about this, right? Jeremiah 51:20, which shows you that Israel will also play a role in that. Okay, but not right now, but rather when the Lord comes and raises us up. So it says here, thou art my battle axe and weapons of war. For with thee will I break in pieces the nations, and with thee will I destroy kingdoms, and with thee will I break in pieces the horse and his rider, and with thee will I break in pieces the chariot and his rider. And I'm going to stop there. You can keep reading if you want, but that's the point right there. The Lord is going to use us, okay, to, as we're reading here, to subject the nations in the world under the rule or the authority of Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh. And right now, we don't have the ability to do that. Verse 6, and I will strengthen the house of Judah, and I will save the house of Joseph. Now, the house of Judah and the house of Joseph represent the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom, right? Because we know, going back to the time immediately after Solomon, there was a split in the kingdom of the nation of Israel. And then you had the southern kingdom, which consisted of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, and the northern kingdom, which consisted of, the rest of the northern tribes. Now here, when it talks about Joseph, there are, a couple of precepts in here where Joseph is synonymous with Ephraim. Okay, because when you go back to the book of Genesis, and Jacob gave the blessings, right, of the blessing of Joseph, and he claimed the sons of Joseph, Ephraim and Manasseh, pretty much as his. And that's why you have them in the 12 tribes, right? When you read Revelation, the 7th chapter, they're listed in there. And that's because they were claimed in there, okay, as part of the 12. So when Jacob was giving them the blessing, he gave the greater blessing to Ephraim. Okay, and I believe Joseph tried to basically switch his hand and let him know, no, Manasseh is the older one. And he was like, I know what I'm doing. All right. Okay, so in here, sometimes you'll see it mention the house of Ephraim. Okay, or sometimes you'll see it mention Joseph, but here they're synonymous. all in all, it's still representing the northern kingdom, because the tribe of Ephraim is the head of the northern kingdom, and the tribe of Judah being the head of the southern kingdom. But collectively, the tribe of Judah is still the head. It says here, and I will bring them again to place them, meaning the Lord is going to restore us. So we know this is prophetic, right? Because at this time of Zechariah, the northern kingdom were in the Americas, and the southern kingdom were here, some in Babylon, a good portion back in Jerusalem. So we weren't together, okay? And the Lord hadn't strengthened us per se, but he's going to do that in this time, right? For I will have mercy upon them, and they shall be as though I had not cast them off. So how were we before the Lord cast us off? Well, 1, we were united, and 2, we were in the land, and 3, we were, enjoying the blessings. So that's what the Lord is going to do. He's going to have mercy upon us. He's going to bring us back together as one nation, and he's going to take us back to the land. For I am the Lord Yahweh, their God, and will hear them. See, so no longer will the Lord be an adversary to us, but rather, our God, our power. Verse 7, and they of Ephraim shall be like a mighty man, and their heart shall rejoice as through wine, which is metaphorical, meaning, they're going to be merry, right? When you go to, most of the time, right, you have like a wedding or some occasion that's joyous. Most of the time is where, you have people drinking, they're laughing, they're loud. That's them being merry, right? Rejoicing as through wine. Yea, their children shall see it and be glad. Their heart shall rejoice in the Lord. See, and this is in essence to say that when the Lord has mercy upon us and he delivers us, we're going to be in that state of gladness, of mirth, us and our children, just rejoicing in the Lord. Verse 8, I will hiss for them and gather them, for I have redeemed them, and they shall increase as they have increased. Now, when it says I will hiss, it's not in a negative sense. When you go into the word hiss, it goes more into like to a calling or a signal or a whistling. All right. Sharak, it says to hiss, whistle, pipe. Right now, when even if you deal with like animals, right, or a dog or something like that, there's certain whistles that you would do to call them, and not in a, this comparison is not in a disrespectful sense, okay? But in here, the Lord is basically saying he would call for us, right, and we will be gathered. He will gather us, for I have redeemed them, and the Lord redeeming us is going to deliver us from the curses that we're under right now, from the state of oppression that we're under right now, from the state of stress and being destitute. All of that is going to go away once we are redeemed, because a part of the curses was that we would be brought to America and other parts, but primarily America, which was referred to as Egypt, and we would be sold, and no man would buy us, meaning nobody would redeem us. But when the Lord has mercy upon us, he will redeem us through his Son, and we're going to be free. It says, and they shall increase as they have increased. And how are we going to increase? How does somebody increase? How does a nation increase? By populating, right? By reproduction. And so, yes, for those that don't believe it, in the kingdom, yeah, we're gonna be reproducing. And a precept for this is the book of Isaiah chapter 60 verse 22. A little one shall become 1,000, and a small one a strong nation. I, the Lord Yahweh, will hasten it in his time. What that means is the family of like one individual is going to be almost as large as a nation on its own. Why? Because in the kingdom, men are going to have multiple women. Isaiah, the 4th chapter, the 1st verse goes into that. Okay. And in the kingdom, we're not going to have limitations like we do now. So we're going to be repopulating. Because, Jake liked to, populate, all right, or now, but it's with fear, right? It's with the curse. Because of society today, everybody's afraid of having children. So you can't really enjoy life. You can't enjoy the natural use of a woman, and vice versa. because everybody's on edge. You know, it's like joy for a moment, then panic for the rest. But in the kingdom, the goal is going to be to have children. Here, it's like, you want the pleasure, you don't want the rest. In the kingdom, the goal is going to be to have children. So we're going to increase without worries of child support or any of these things. We're going to be at peace and comfortably be able to have children and families and grow. And that's a part of the mercy the Lord is going to bestow upon us. Verse 9, and I will sow them among the people, and they shall remember me in far countries, and they shall live with their children and turn again. Now the Lord sowing us among the people, meaning that we were going to be scattered, right? Just like when you have a seed, you sow it, meaning you plant it in different parts of the earth. Well, the Lord sowed us by scattering us among the different nations across the four corners of the earth. Okay. But the Lord is saying here, though we be scattered amongst these different nations, because during the time of Zechariah, yeah, Israelites were scattered, but it got much worse later on, right? If you come to the point today, you have Israelites that look like damn near every nation under the sun, because we've been scattered so much. You have Israelites that look like what would be called modern day Chinese, Japanese, East Indians, Russians, Israelites that look like all different kinds of people, because we've been sown among them and we repopulated among them. But it says, and they shall remember me in far countries, which is happening now. And the far countries being the nations which we've been scattered amongst. And the they that are remembering the Lord are the elect amongst the Israelites that have been scattered within all these different nations. And they are remembering the Lord by way of hearing the words of the scriptures, the words of the prophets. Because the scriptures tell you, right, that Yahushua said that he that heareth you, speaking about the prophets, heareth me. So those that hear our words, hear the Lord. And by remembering, what it means is you're going to hear this word and it's going to resonate with your spirit and you're going to believe it, because your spirit is going to remember it. But obviously, mentally, we don't remember exactly these things, but our spirit does. And that's why it makes so much sense to us and we believe it. So the elect amongst these other nations, when they hear this word, their spirit is going to remember it and they're going to cleave to it and they're going to believe. And that's how they're going to remember the Lord. And in doing so, they're going to start calling upon the true name of the Heavenly Father, which is Yahweh, and the name of his son, which is Yahushua. And they're gonna stop whatever heathenistic ways and customs they have been following, and they're gonna remember their heritage, remember that they're actually Israelites and all of these things. Okay, it says, and they shall live with their children. So how are they gonna live? Well, for one, if they be of the elect, by turning and repenting, they will be delivered from the second death. Okay, but also we will be restored, okay, to an actual proper way of living, by way of remembering the Lord and remembering our heritage and coming back to this truth, right? It says with their children, which is representing the elect, because you're gonna have elect families. You're gonna have women, you're gonna have men, and you're gonna have children, right? That are gonna believe. It says, and turn again. Meaning what? We're going to come back to the state where we once were as Israelites, believing in Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, knowing who we are, and being one righteous under our power. Verse 10, I will bring them again also out of the land of Egypt, and gather them out of Assyria, and I will bring them into the land of Gilead and Lebanon, and place shall not be found for them. And here what the Lord is saying is, when he mentions Egypt and Assyria, these are symbolic names for America. Because in Egypt, where we were in ancient Egypt, we were there as slaves, as captives, just like we are here in America. We were brought here in America as slaves. We served captivity, and today we're still subject, okay, onto our oppressors in this land. That is one of the reasons why this place is likened onto Egypt, or is compared to Egypt, or symbolically referred to as Egypt, not to mention the different customs and gods of ancient Egypt that have been revived here as well in America. But also you have Assyria, which also represented a form of our captivity, right? Primarily the northern kingdom. And this place, America, is also likened onto Assyria. Okay, so what the Lord is saying here is he's going to deliver us from this land, which Revelation, the 18th chapter and the 4th verse goes into that. And I believe also Jeremiah, the 16th chapter, if I'm not mistaken, where the Lord talks about delivering us from the land of the north, and that deliverance being greater and overshadowing the first deliverance from ancient Egypt. Okay, so the Lord bringing us out of this land, it starts with the truth waking us up, but then it's going to be physical, how the Lord actually delivers us from this area. It says, and I will bring them into the land of Gilead and Lebanon, which are in the land of Israel, and place shall not be found for them. And what that means is the Lord is going to bring us back into the land, and we're going to be fruitful, and we're going to increase, like we read up above in verse 8, so much so that there's not going to be enough space for us. Okay, and that's a way of saying or highlighting the level of peace and fruitfulness that we are going to have. And eventually, on a literal sense, we are going to have to expand, past just the earth or the region of Israel, because the scriptures say that we're not going to die anymore, right? Revelation, the 21st chapter goes into that. And so if we're going to keep increasing, then eventually we're going to need to start, populating other regions. As we know, the Lord mentioned there are many, in his Father's house, there are many mansions, which is going into these other planets. Well, why do you think the Lord created those? Anyway, verse 11, it says, and he shall pass through the sea with affliction, and shall smite the waves in the sea, and all the deeps of the river shall dry up, and the pride of Assyria shall be brought down, and the scepter of Egypt shall depart away. Now, the he shall pass through the sea with affliction is representing the Lord bringing judgment upon this place. And so let's go real quick to the book of Revelation, the 17th chapter, to understand what does the sea represent. Okay, now when you read Revelation, the 17th chapter, it goes into the destruction of America, which is referred to as Babylon. Now, the angel first tells the Apostle John, right, as he sees, we're going to read the first two verses, and then we're going to jump down to right about the last verse where the angel explains to John what the sea or waters and the whore represent. Okay, so this is Revelation 17:1. And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither, I will shew thee, I will shew thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. And what is a sea? A sea is really a body of water, right? Or waters. Okay. And so it says, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. The woman sitting upon the many waters, meaning that she has rule or dominion or influence upon the waters. Okay, now actually I'm curious to see what it says here for sitteth. Let's see if there's some edification that can come from that. Cathe Mahi, and it says here to sit, be seated, of place occupied, to have a fixed abode. Okay, to remain, to reside, to sit. Okay, that's cool, not bad. Anyway, let's keep on going. So now let's jump down to let's jump down to, hold on. Here we go, the 15th verse. It says here, and he saith unto me, so the angel said to the Apostle John, the waters which thou sawest, like we just read in the first two verses, where the whore sitteth, are what? Are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. So in essence, it's a society. It's a a world, an age, of where people are, multitudes, nations, all of that. Okay. So when you go back to Zechariah 10, when it talks about the sea, it's talking about that same sea. It's talking about the peoples and nations and multitudes and tongues that the Lord is going to pass through with affliction, meaning the Lord is going to bring judgment, okay, upon the peoples and multitudes and kindreds and tongues. All right. Just as when you read in these other precepts, it talks about that, right? When you read in the second Esdras 15, 16, and all, other precepts that go into the judgment of the Lord, it's not isolated to just America. Okay. It talks about the earth. It talks about the world. And right now, as we read in Revelation 17, the world is under the influence, primarily the West, but the world is under the influence of the whore. That's why she's sitting upon the sea. Okay. Hence, when the Lord brings that affliction, which is that destruction and that distress, and making this place destitute, it's going to start with the whore, but it's going to be, pretty much everybody else, with the exception of the elect, of course. It says, and shall smite the waves in the sea, and all the deeps of the river shall dry up. Which is, once again, another way of saying what we just read here, right? The Lord is going to destructure. He's going to destroy this age, this society, okay? Which is going to be literal, but also is going to change the way of living. Now, when you read in Revelation 17, the peoples, nations, multitudes, and tongues are likened onto waters, right? Which in this verse is referred to as seas. Now, when the Lord comes and he brings that destruction, he is going to break down and destroy the peoples and nations and multitudes and tongues and subject them onto him, onto the ways of righteousness. So just as the people and nations and multitudes and tongues are likened onto a sea or waters, then their destruction is likened onto the drying up, okay, of those waters. Here is referred to as the river shall dry up. Okay, just as it says that the Lord is going to pass through the sea with affliction. In other words, the Lord is going to bring judgment upon this place, primarily America, but not just America, really the earth. Okay, it says, and the pride of Assyria shall be brought down. Why? Because they're going to have nothing to be proud of. They're going to be destroyed. And Assyria and Egypt, like we went over, is symbolic for America. Okay, so their pride is going to crumble along with their society when the Lord makes his return and utterly puts an end to this place. And the scepter of Egypt, which the scepter means the rule of Egypt, shall depart away. Why? Because they're going to be destroyed. So there's going to be nothing to rule. They're not going to be ruling anything. Okay, save the pits that the elites are going to be thrown in. Verse 12, and I will strengthen them in the Lord. Now the them here that are going to be strengthened in the Lord are the Israelites. And it's going to start with the elect of the nation of Israel, because they are going to be the first ones to experience these blessings. And then through them, the rest of the nation is going to get to experience that. Okay, so it says, and I will strengthen them in the Lord, and they shall walk up and down in his name, saith the Lord. So the walking up and down, meaning that we're gonna be put in a position of authority, of confidence, okay, without cares, without worries. Because if somebody's able to walk up and down in a place, then that means they got they're good. All right, they're at home, they're comfortable, they don't have to worry about anything, they don't have restrictions. That's why they're able to walk up and down. Okay, and so what the Lord is saying here is he's going to strengthen us, he's going to raise us up, he's going to place us back in our land, and he's going to bless us. Okay, and we're going to be in that fruitful and joyous state without worries and without the pain and suffering that we had to go through on this side. And that pretty much covers the book of Zechariah, the 10th chapter. So as I mentioned in the beginning, majority of it is going into the kind of blessing that the Lord is going to bring upon us, but not at the time of Zechariah, but more so prophetically in the time of the future, which we are fast approaching now. So with that, Lord willing, this was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kudash. And until next time, Shalom.